it's like so heartbreaking. I was just telling this story the other day, like, you know, so many times it's like slag or something like that. And I entirely understand why people think it's a meteorite. But there's one gentleman who I told him it was slag. And then I proceeded to ask him, I said, is there a mine around it, or is it around a railroad? And he was like, as a matter of fact, there is. And I've done all this research on the local mine. And he was like thrilled that I told him he'd made all these connections between the previous mining history and this thing that he found. And he was so thrilled. But usually it's like
just
heartbreaking
slag,
to be like, I'm sorry. I was like, it's really cool, but it's not a meteorite, sorry.
Well, you've had a lot of practice dealing with the public directly.
Indeed.
And your name, please.
My name is Stephanie Earls.
And your role here at the Washington Geological Survey.
I run the Geology Library. So, I mean, I do a combination of things. So I definitely support the staff's work. So, you know, of course, they're mapping landslides, they're doing the quad mapping.
Yeah.
We've got the surface mine program.
Yeah.
You know, so many cool people doing so much amazing work. You know, Dan Coe doing our LiDAR, very cool LiDAR maps.
Yes.
So really, I'm supporting their work. I support the staff in that way. And then I'm also open to the public, and I'm here to answer questions from the public on anything related to Washington geology. So I answer all sorts of interesting questions. You know, things from, we do rock identifications here.
Oh, you do?
We do. We are open to the public. You know, now post-pandemic, people are starting to come back in, but we also have folks send us pictures of things, which, you know, it has its limitations. It's a little bit more difficult to really ID something that way. But, you know, for people that don't live nearby, it's an option for them to just get a sense of what they have. So we do that. And then, you know, people are doing research. So there's consultants that want to look at some of our old reports. Like you know, the early days of the survey was really focused on mining. And so we have a lot of consultant reports that they may not exist anywhere else.
Right. You've really helped me out personally. I want to thank you. You know, when I get
pleasure.
into a dead end and I cannot find a certain old paper, you are prompt and easy to work with. And I know you've got a few things here on this table, and Jordan loves the old stuff. We both love the old stuff. Did you say you had something from Brett's, J. Harlan Brett's over here?
Of course, we you know, J. Harlan Brett's is a well-known, you know, geologist that had this wild idea of this huge flood that produced the channeled scablands, and everybody thought he was, you know, out of his mind back then. And especially if you think about, like, so this is our Bulletin 8 by J. Harlan Brett's, and there's just these super cool old maps. Like, I'm trying to think what's the year that this is even published. And this is actually I think it was his PhD work. I can't remember the year of it, but 1913.
Yeah.
So to think that he came up with this theory, you know, not from an airplane, not from using LiDAR, not from using any kind of modern technology, just hiking around and seeing these features and understanding that some significant thing happened in this landscape. So this is, I don't know, these are just fun old maps that you know, it's fun to look at.
Totally. What else have you got here? Just a
let's see.
little sampler from what you have here in this room.
Sure.
I know you've got a bunch of cool stuff.
Well, I thought it would be fun to look in our catalog and figure out what our oldest oldest map or report we had. And this is, of course, a photocopy, so we don't have to be too worried about preservation, but it's from 1798, the coast of Northwest America. So it's just really fun to look at these old maps and see what they were focused on, what things were named back then, how they've changed over time.
Here we go.
Yeah.
What was the year again?
This is 1798.
No kidding.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a combination of things. Like sometimes, you know, I always offer to do, you know, research for folks. So if they give me a topic or an area, I can do research for them and then come up with a stack of stuff and provide that to them. You know, a lot of times, you know, some of the state mappers, they do a 7.5-minute quad, and then the next year they'll do one adjacent. So they've already kind of started the research and they sort of know about the regional, you know, where they've mapped before, but then they want to kind of grow on that. So, you know, they figure out what journals and, you know, a thesis or a dissertation that's been done, or an old USGS report. And, you know, of course, you know, we have a lot of stuff online, but a lot of our collection is still in paper. So, you know, a lot of people ask me, why don't you go entirely to a digital library? And we are trying to shift to that. I'm trying to scan all of our theses and dissertations and articles and stuff like that. But in terms of copyright, I couldn't, because we are open to the public, I can't make that stuff available publicly.
Right.
Like I can't scan it and put it up on the internet because it's not mine to do.
Yes.
So, you know, in some way we're still restricted by copyright, but I do provide digital things whenever possible. But yeah, I just support the staff and with whatever they need.
Well, so I can come in here
Yes.
and check out books.
So we don't check things
Okay.
out to the public. So if people come in here, they can take pictures. I try to scan things whenever possible. If folks can't make it all the way in here, or if they find something here that they'd maybe want to spend a little bit more time with, I can help them find it depends. And if it's an item that maybe a university has, you know, I'll get them in touch with their.
Yeah.
They can do interlibrary loan through their public library, and we can figure out what the closest place is that owns it, so they could request that.
Gotcha.
So I still try to help them get access. Yeah. So.
All right. Well, if we just get a little Whitman sampler here of all the great stuff, and if the public can come in here, I mean, they'd have to get in to see you. I suppose make an appointment or whatever.
I prefer that just because I do work half-time at home.
Okay.
And I'm also the only one in here, so if I'm in a meeting or out to lunch, then
Right.
I'm not here when people stop by, since I'm only here, you know, just when it's just me. So I do prefer when people make appointments, but I'm usually here all day, Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that's the safer bet if you're just going to stop by.
Well, is it okay if I put your email maybe on the?
Yeah, it's on the WGS page, so people can get in touch with me.
Okay.
But yeah, so I mean, I can talk a little bit about the collection.
Good.
So you know, down here we have some cool field trip reports. That's actually part of the collection that's used fairly frequently, since a lot of our geologists lead other, you know, more field trips, so they build off of what other folks have done.
Been trying to get a hold of this thing. Yes. First thing I see is something I've been. I can't find this in PDF anywhere.
I wonder if I feel like maybe, we should talk about that. I might be able to help you.
Okay.
I can't remember if I have that one or not in PDF.
So where are the field trips reports you're talking about?
So these are all, actually, that's what all these are. They're sort of the official GSA ones, and then there's just like the ephemeral ones that, you know, it's like somebody, you know, photocopied a bunch of stuff, and I happened to get my hands on it because somebody here went on the field trip. So it's probably stuff that isn't being kept in other places. So we do our best to keep those. Okay. And then you know, we have, starting just behind you, another part of our really old collection. That's the start of our USGS stuff. So we have, these are annual reports going back, you know.
Yeah.
Here we got the late 1800s.
Right.
And I would be a little bit more worried about preserving these if they were the only copy in existence. But you know, tons of libraries have these.
Yeah, I'd like to take this for the next year. Is that okay?
Totally, right?
Well, look at this thing.
Yeah, that's a pretty impressive.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Old piece of paper right there.
Yeah, and it's totally obviously falling apart, but it's cool to just, I mean, even just looking at the paper quality and the binding, and like just the quality of the really old materials. During Earth Science Week, we have a rock auction to raise money for this, and I have to say, it's like one of the events of the year around here. I mean, I'm sure you both know, people rock collect and they love the rock auction. And it's such a funny event. Like, it's a hodgepodge of stuff. I mean, sometimes we have old rock saws, sometimes we have cool old books, tons and tons of rocks and fossils from all over the place. And so it's a silent auction. It goes all day until 3 p.m. And then I am not kidding you. We are prying pens out of people's hands. They're like super protective of the thing. They're like, I'm going home with this thing tonight, and no one's getting in my way. So anyway, during that week, we usually have, or we at least used to do the rock auction during Earth Science Week, and so I would also have an open house where one of our previous geologists, Carey, which I'm so sorry that she's not here anymore, but I think she's working for the county now. But she would make a geologically themed cake. And these were incredible. She did like a Cascadia subduction zone with like multiple layers and a fault, and like what's the the big iconic thing in Seattle.
Space Needle.
Space Needle, there we go. I mean, like crazy wild cakes. And then I'd also have a bunch of cool maps. But for some reason, I always got drawn to the Mount Adams.
Oh,
I don't know why.
okay.
I'm not really sure why,
Right.
but that's the one that I would pull every year for some reason. So
Well, I can see the appeal.
I mean, I like-
I can picture it.
Yeah.
Just, I can feel the energy of all these folks just
Yeah.
like loving it.
Yeah.
Have you set a date for this next one?
So it's usually in November. I don't think we have a date set, but folks, if anybody wants to attend, it's open to the public. We have it out in the rotunda of the NRB. Anybody's welcome to come, or if you have rock donations, we would gladly take those as well. So,
What's the NRB?
oh, sorry, Natural Resources Building. That's,
Got it.
You know, we're geologists. We love our acronyms, and we throw them out as
steps
if
away.
everyone knows what we're talking about.
Okay. You're paid to be half-time, essentially answering anybody's email or request to visit, and you have so much. How many years have you been in this role?
I've been here for 12 years.
12 years.
And I actually ran the library at the Utah Department of Natural Resources prior to this.
Okay.
So 15 years total doing this kind of work. Yeah.
I don't know. What are the common questions?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I talked about rock identification. That's pretty common. But the other main one, which became much easier to answer once we created the Geologic Information Portal, which is the best tool ever.
Yes.
So, you know, folks are moving here from out of state, or somebody's buying a house somewhere else, you know, moving somewhere within the state, and they're doing their due diligence, and they want to know if there's any geologic hazards in the area that might impact the home or the neighborhood, that sort of thing. So they give us a call to find out what we know. And so so often I'll just walk people through the Geologic Information Portal, which it's funny because I use it to buy my own house. Like, I definitely checked it. Thurston County also has like a geodata center. So some of the counties have cool tools that have additional information that, you know, you should always check if there's other tools too. But you know, like I had a woman call. This is pretty funny because she asked me kind of the same question about 10 different ways, trying to get me to really, like, is it safe? She really wanted me to tell her that it was safe to buy a house in this area. And I was like, liability, I can't tell you that, but I can describe what you're seeing on this tool. So, you know, so we just go through, like, are there historic landslides in this area? Are there faults nearby? We have another cool, something I like to show people is, so we have sort of like seismic events that you can look at. So you could look at a 9.0 Cascadia subduction zone earthquake. What's the shaking intensity going to be, you know, across the state? Or what if it was on the Seattle fault or the Tacoma fault? So you can look at that kind of stuff and get a sense of like how impactful it would be when those events took place. So I guess the other thing that, you know, people are always interested in rock hounding, and another way you can use the portal is we have mineral locations listed on that, which is all the information from our WGS Bulletin 37. So you can look at metallic and non-metallic minerals on there. So if you know you're going to this area, you could take a look at what already exists there. And of course we have other rock hounding books that people could look at too. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the Washington Geologic Information Portal.
Well, yes,
Yeah.
and I don't know if you're being literal now. Are you sometimes on the phone with somebody and
Yeah.
you're like, let's look at this together? Click your plus button so you
Exactly.
can zoom in.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah, I walk people through it all the time. Like that's kind of one of my favorite things, because, you know, and then sometimes I recommend that people use it and they're like, I don't know, I'm not that comfortable with technology. I'm like, let's give it a go. I'll walk you through it. And by the end they're like, that's so cool. They just feel so empowered, and now they know how to use it and figure out what they're looking at and that kind of stuff. And yeah,
I might be calling you soon, Stephanie. I might need a little help myself.
Sure,
I
yeah.
know there's great stuff there.
Yeah.
And yes.
Yeah.
Did you have a hand in creating the portal?
I didn't. I mean, I give feedback whenever they make a change. I'm on the little committee to give them feedback because I use it so much.
Yeah.
So yeah, in that regard, I help. But unfortunately, I didn't. I'm a big user, and I get other people to use it. So
Yeah.
and I've actually I've done like trainings with other librarians on how to use it. So if they, a public librarian gets a geology question, so they can get a start on how to answer these things too. So I love teaching people how to use it. Yeah.
Jordan Carey, you came here 4 years ago. You'd never lived in Washington before. At what point did you discover this portal? And do
That's
you
a
use
good
it much?
question. I absolutely use it. I use it in my teaching. I've made exercises. The portal makes it really easy to download topographical data, and downloading hillshades show students all the time, or for them to map on or work on. As a first-time home buyer, I'm trying to remember.
You talked to Stephanie on the phone.
Maybe I was one of the. What's this X button doing? I remember looking at a lot of flood information.
Yeah.
Moving to Ellensburg and making sure I was staying out of the flood zone.
Is that a thing?
So we don't have flooding information on there, but that's something I would recommend if that was a specific question I was getting about the home building. Like there's a whole other stuff. I'd point people to like the USDA web soil survey too if they're interested in soils, or USGS National Geologic Map Database if they want to dig into maps. So yeah, I do. It's over here.
I know you get that question a lot.
Yeah, well, in Washington State, we have a lot of rocks that look like meteors. They're heavy. They kind of look like they have a fusion crust. They can be magnetic even. Often it's basalt. Sometimes it's slag. In my 12 years, or as far as I can tell, nobody's shown me a meteorite, but
some of them come all the way in. They figure out where there's parking. They come in through the security. They come in, and then I mean, I struggle with this. All that effort, and then they just want me to say it's.
They do. It's an exciting thing if you think you have a meteorite. And there's those stories that come around from time to time where, this rock that somebody's had in their kitchen for 30 years is like a doorstop.
Right.
Somebody finally actually like, what is this? And then they take it to the university and they're like, oh my gosh, that's a meteorite. And so people hear that on the news and then they're like, wait a minute, maybe I have a meteorite.
Yes. So most of these samples you inherited when you started here, probably, I'm guessing. Or did you find these in boxes or something and then decided we should display them a little bit?
I've added a couple of them, but for the most part, these were all here when I got here. Yeah. Yeah, we had the staff collect these cool palm fronds from the Chuckanut Formation, so I thought we should stick that in there.
Orange, Jordan. It's walk time. Chuckanut.
Looks just like the one in our case.
We've got a similar from Central Washington. Oh yeah, Lahar from the Tootle. So you must deal with school groups or other kind of tours that you lead often.
Yeah, we do. So we've hosted kids groups or other groups that want to come in, and we have an augmented reality sandbox in here that we specifically got, so we'd have more fun things for the kids to come through.
Let's take a look at that.
Yeah,
real quick.
Yeah. Everybody loves the sandbox. Yeah, we do Bring Your Kids to Work Day. It's actually coming up here in April, and it's like a live topographic mat. It's also like for tactile learners and visual learners. It's like so fun to play around and actually, watch the topographic lines be redrawn as you move the sand around, and then you can make it rain if you hold your hand like here, and it follows the contours. It's just really fun.
Jordan?
So if you don't, there you go. You got it.
Jordan.
Yeah.
See, all powerful.
That's my UC Davis education coming in handy right there.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, UC Davis created this?
They did, and then they put all the specs online so people could make them themselves. Well, yeah, like, so some of the stuff I was talking about, like if somebody, was calling up saying they're moving to Washington and kind of want to have a sense of, where the faults are, that sort of thing. So I'll pop them into the portal, and there's just a lot of cool layers so we have the landslides layer, and that's changing. That they're just continuing to do more and more landslide mapping. So you could, just kind of zoom into an area that they're thinking about moving, and then you can see all the landslides that have been mapped. It might take a minute for this to pop up.
Can we select Clallam County and look at what's been done with landslides? Jordan has just started a job mapping in the next few months. So I want to see the before.
So probably, I don't know that they've updated this, but they have some of the old mapping. But so you can click on the.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
So you can click on it, and it gives you, they basically include whatever information they have on it, like how recent it was, or if it's more like ancient and hasn't moved in a long time, that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's the cool feature, is you can click on it and find out more about it. And then sometimes it's linked to like a report, and then you can access that report if you really want to dig into the details. So that's the landslides
That's
layer.
Donaghy country, I'm just realizing. To connect you guys, like she's probably got a bunch of landslides on her.
Yeah, probably
Yes.
that aren't mapped anywhere
Right.
else.
Yeah.
Should go look at like Thurston or something where WGS has mapped a lot. I think they should all be on there.
Yeah. Turn that tsunami layer back off.
Nothing like us telling you what to do, Stephanie.
Well, this is how it goes. It's like, this is how a conversation goes. Somebody's like, well, this is what I'm concerned about. Can you show me?
Yes.
So, so you can, there's a whole, bunch of things you can look at. But whatever you click on, a little pop-up box tells you what you're looking at. And then, of course, we're civil servants, so if you have more questions about landslides, you're absolutely welcome to call us, and you could actually talk to a landslides geologist. So either give us a call, call the general geology number, or shoot an email over to the main geology email, which is geology@dnr.wa.gov, and we can get you in touch with a landslides geologist or earthquake seismic geologist, that kind of stuff. So. So I kind of just walk them. If somebody's thinking about moving up here, I just walk them through the various hazards. If they're thinking about coastal living, of course we talk about tsunami risk, and there's evacuation maps, walk time maps on here, all that kind of stuff.
What was different back then in your first few years of the job versus now related to this portal? Were you much less efficient in trying to get information to people?
It was definitely more difficult, for sure. It was like scanning chapters of books out of things, or journal articles, or having to like kind of put all this, because we had GIS data back there, but most of these people are not. That's the thing. Like, this is GIS data that's super user friendly. So
yes. It
was much harder to answer questions. So that's why I love this tool so much. It's just like a snap of a finger, and I can be like, this is the question. Like, I'm pointing people all the time. Like, I feel like I'm trying to know the percentage of, like, what's the percentage of questions I get where I use the portal? It's got to be 60, 70%.
Yeah.
It's significant.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, so some of this stuff is old and probably written with a pencil, so it was starting to fade.
Yeah.
And it would be a shame if you couldn't see it anymore. So we have all these cool old field notebooks here. And they've been scanned.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Really? Seriously?
Yeah. So these are, of course, newer ones, but some of these old ones are they're just cool. So we have these in a database now. Like, that is going to be harder and harder to read over the years.
Your staff scanned these?
Yeah.
Or you scanned them?
I didn't do it. We got a grant, and then we hired people to do it, and then got everything into a database. So from that data preservation link on the geology page, you can access the database, and then there's various search terms to get to these.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
And this is a mixture. Are they all state survey people, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily. Some folks have, their children, or they've donated their stuff after they've retired.
I see.
So.
Oh, including the Paul Hammond.
Paul Hammond, I was
stuff.
just going to mention the Paul Hammond stuff. So, of course, we've got the big Paul Hammond project going right now, and we're getting it in pieces because it's a wild amount of material. But on Fridays I go out and help them. We sort through rocks, and
Oh, you do? Oh, okay.
we're all kind of pitching in a little bit. I heard a number today. They've like relabeled like 4,500 samples or something at this point. It's wild, but it's such a great resource.
Yes.
So yeah. So if anybody is curious about old field notebooks, or is just curious about it, go to that data preservation link and go to the database, and you can read old notebooks.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I think these are my favorite thing in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are pretty cool.
I've only ever seen in my time as a geologist or yellow right in the rains, but seeing these old ones is
It's wild, right?
awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. And some of the like old hand-drawn illustrations
Yeah.
are really cool. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Stephanie, thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome.
That was wonderful.
Great.